Time to do makeup. I saw a post on here about somebody talking about a pregnant woman who did not get seen by the doctor because she was black, and like you could see the video that this woman is actively in labor. She's screaming, and the nurse is just trying to fill up online paperwork, but she's not even acknowledging this woman's pain, and it's just like the video was like really hard to watch, y'all. And the fact that some people think that this is, normal and that it's totally okay to treat people like this is ridiculous. Like, I know that as a country, we're incredibly individualistic, and a lot of us, are stuck in our own heads, and we have our own lives and stuff going on. All those things. I hope my nose ring isn't bleeding because I accidentally bumped it. I think a lot of the times when people come to us with, things that they're dealing with their problems, it's so easy to resort to, simple niceties. The simple, oh, it'll be okay type thing. That was my mascara flying. And, like, I've seen a lot of people that will be like, oh, well, until you experience something, ooh, that looks kind of bad. Until you experience something, you're not really going to, understand it or feel sympathy for it. But, like, the thing is, especially on, like, the left, a lot of the times people aren't going to, understand something until they've gone through it, which sucks, because you'd think that most people would have basic empathy for other people. But if it took something to happen to you before you actually, take it into consideration, then at least you've figured it out, And people who are still trying to wake up are going to fall, and they're going to stumble. Not that that's right, but it should be expected. Because I think, sometimes you have to fail in order to learn. And, that doesn't mean that you have to tolerate, bad behavior, or people being mean or whatever. But in order to learn, you have to make mistakes. However, on the other hand, oops, guess we'll just work with that. On the other hand, like, I understand not wanting until you, tolerate bad behavior and you want to correct people when they're wrong. I accidentally messed this up, so let's see if we can work with it. I think I like the left eyeliner better than the right one. Not sure how I feel about this. What I'm trying to say is we need to give some people some grace. There goes my insulin pump yelling at me. But on the other hand, we can't tolerate behavior like that. That should not be normalized at all. Black women statistically have more infant mortality than their white counterparts. And that's literally just a fact. And the way that we treat pregnant women in general is ridiculous in the society. For the people that go on and on and on about how pro-life they are, they sure as hell don't seem to care about what happens to the mothers or their children. Videos of that woman who was calling churches and mosques and Buddhist temples to see how many of them could help with, baby formula. And even though that was just a social experiment, you could definitely tell how many people were genuinely interested and willing to help her, and how many of them were not. How many of them were literally, especially those churches, were run just like a business rather than, a place that people can go to for help and for sanctuary. And granted, this video is kind of like a whole stream of consciousness thing, so whether or not it makes sense, I don't know. I'm probably going to watch it later and then I'm going to regret posting it. However, we need to start, showing more humanity and compassion towards our fellow humans. People go on and on and on about empathy, but the thing is, empathy is when you understand exactly what somebody else is going through, but sympathy is also important, because sympathy means that you may not feel, what the other person is going through, but you can feel for them. Like you can feel bad that they're in that situation. You can be like, oh, that would suck. So I think we actually need to raise our expectations for empathy, sympathy, and compassion, okay? Because the fact that these aren't normalized and they're just ideals kind of says something about our individualistic society.